Let's face it, guys. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Has caught a lot of heat recently, and from the outside looking in, I've seen modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Players consistently complain about some sort of issue with gameplay. There's this perpetual fallacy that exists in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! That pushes the concept of one more ban list, or the next set will fix the unsatisfying gameplay people are experiencing, but the reality is, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has been around for a very long time. The card game is as old as many of its players, with 24 years and counting of existence. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not immune to the issues of a developing card game. So let's first discuss what the actual root of these gameplay issues are, and then talk about what the potential solution could be. First, I'd like to give a disclaimer. In no way is modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Dying. In all honesty, it's growing, likely due to the success of Master Duel and larger content creators recently streaming Master Duel gameplay. And before you jump to conclusions about me, I want to state that I have played Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitively from conception to 2018. I'm not one of those playground classic Yu-Gi-Oh! Enthusiasts who is still salty about special summons for some reason. But here's the reality of the situation. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! As a whole has had issues for a long time now. The root of these issues is due to a concept called power creep. You've probably heard this term before, but if you haven't, allow me to explain. Power creep is a gradual unbalance of a game due to successive release of new content. Let's face it, card game companies want to make money, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Is no exception to this. Konami has to release new cards that not only have unique effects that have never been printed before, but they also need something powerful enough to make you ditch your old deck and buy a new one. Great example of this is XYZ's. Utopia was an underwhelming but a nice solution to having two dead monsters on the field. At the time, Logia was absurdly powerful but required a deck of dinos, and we eventually reached Zodiac, which didn't even require two monsters to summon. Power creep has plagued Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time, and at this point, without something like set rotation, it's going to continue to be an issue. I'm pretty sure even Konami is aware of how broken their game is. They've been pushing other game modes like Duel Links and Speed Duels, which pushes gameplay back to a simpler state, even with the sanctioning of Time Wizard formats. But even with all that, to quote Bo Burnham, we know it's not right, we know it's not funny, but we will stop beating this dead horse when it stops spitting out money. In other words, as long as the player base continues to support Konami through purchasing these new sets, Konami will continue to print them. Power creep creates even more of the gameplay issues we've come to know with modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, such as full games lasting for very few turns, small engine combos or one-card combos that result in absurd boards or game states, long turns, and Bible-length card texts, not to mention broken summoning mechanics like links. I know it's a bit cliche to complain about links, but my god, remember back in early XYZ era where people thought you could tour guide into Sengen, overlay, and detach the Sengen and still get the search? Konami quickly made it known that that wasn't the case because of how broken that would be, but with links you can literally just do that. In the context of all of Yu-Gi-Oh!, there has never been a summoning mechanic more poorly designed. Yes, people had their issues with Pendulum, but Pendulum was so short in terms of meta impact and easily countered. Look at Billy Break, one of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s best players, who topped in just about every format in history. He loved Yu-Gi-Oh!, but then they dropped links and he was like, I'm a head out. At this point, you are probably wondering what my great solution to modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. Truth of the matter is, there isn't a simple solution to all of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s problems, but I do know that while there have been many instances of Yu-Gi-Oh! Being poor, there have also been many eras of Yu-Gi-Oh! With incredible gameplay. So the ultimate solution is play old formats. As simple and possibly annoying of an answer as that may be, there are actually a ton of benefits to doing this. Konami recently sanctioned the play of old formats through Time Wizard events. You can literally go to a YCS and play a sanctioned Tengu Plant format tournament. Konami legit handed its players the out. It baffles me seeing all the players out there complaining about how terrible modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Formats are when they can literally still play their beloved game with tried and true better gameplay. Would you rather suffer through another unfixable power creep format, or invest in a format you know you enjoy? To me, the answer is simple. No single ban list, new set, or even master rule is going to make Yu-Gi-Oh! Feel better. So first, let's highlight some of the benefits to playing Time Wizard formats over modern Yu-Gi-Oh! First off, you can pick your game speed. If the game feels too fast, there are good historical formats to fit your needs as a player. If you like the slow feel of classic Yu-Gi-Oh!, then Goat or Reaper might be for you. If you want a healthy balance of combos, game speed, deck variety, and skillful gameplay, then I'd recommend Tengu Plant format. If you like a bit less balance and more explosiveness, then September 2012 or Hat would be great options. But ultimately, there are a ton of good formats. I recommend trying them all and seeing what feels best for you. There really is something for everyone. The second benefit to retro formats is cost efficiency. any format is a one-time investment. Unlike modern Yu-Gi-Oh, you don't have to worry about the deck you spend money on getting gutted off a ban list. There is no price upkeep to playing. Modern Yu-Gi-Oh is constantly releasing new sets you need to invest in to some degree to remain relevant in the competitive space. But in Retro Yu-Gi-Oh, you can invest in a single strong deck and it will remain viable because there's no risk of getting hit by a ban list. The reality is, as Time Wizard formats continue to grow, Konami will support them. They want to sell what we want to buy. This means potential for even cheaper decks, rarity upgrades, and better prize support. We saw evidence of this with Konami putting retro reprints in OTS packs like Ulti Scapegoat, for example. And if you've made it this far in the video and you're thinking to yourself, well, why can't some of these modern formats be good just like the retro formats? Well, what I like to do is I like to apply a concept called the replayability test. I think about a format and ask myself, was it fun because I performed well, or would I actually want to sit down and play that format casually with friends? We all feel that dopamine hit from comboing off on your opponent's face, but would that really be fun to repeat between you and a friend? So I usually try to apply that when thinking about if a format is good or not, and in most cases for modern formats, I would say the answer to that is no. Now, if you've made it this far in the video and you are feeling angry because you just love modern Yu-Gi-Oh, well, understand that maybe this video just isn't for you. I made this video specifically for those of you who feel unhappy with what modern Yu-Gi-Oh is today. You know, if you don't enjoy the gameplay, if you're frustrated with the meta, whatever it may be, then I'm just trying to offer an alternative solution to those who are unhappy with the current game. If you love modern Yu-Gi-Oh, more power to you. Keep playing it. I'm not trying to stop you. Now, on the other hand, if maybe you got to this point in the video and you agree and you feel like, hey, I want to give Retro Yu-Gi-Oh a try, what do you recommend? Well, for me personally, I would recommend getting into Tengu Plant format. If you watch my other content on this channel, it is all about Tengu Plant format. I think it is the greatest format Yu-Gi-Oh has ever seen, and I think you would really enjoy it if you gave it a shot. That being said, there are a ton of different options to try. I feel like a lot of modern Yu-Gi-Oh players came into the game really late, and they unfortunately didn't get to experience all of the great retro formats that Yu-Gi-Oh has had throughout the years. So I would recommend just playing all of them. See what's a good fit for you and see if you enjoy the gameplay better. If you do, then great, come participate. There's a ton of different tournaments going on. In the Tengu Plant Discord alone, we have free entry tournaments with cash prizes. I'll put a link to that in the description below. But like I said, I would recommend just diving in, giving it a shot, and see if it's a good fit for you. At the end of the day, we play Yu-Gi-Oh and games in general to have fun. So you really should be deciding to play a game or a format based on if you actually enjoy the gameplay of that format and not just because you like the game as a whole. I think that's what a lot of people get trapped into. They're like, oh, we're just hoping that things will get better over time. But in reality, you don't have to do that. Konami gave us sanctioned tournaments for retro formats, which means you can literally just pick when the best time of the game was and play it. And if you don't think that's been reached, well, then, you know, you can keep watching. But ultimately, I just think it is more cost effective to pick a retro format, stick to it, and play it until you find something better. And I think that is the best way to approach Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. And who knows, maybe eventually we could get YCSs for retro formats, which would be absolutely incredible. I know a lot of people would love to see it, including myself. So, you know, with the growth of Time Wizard formats, we can hopefully see larger events growing that Konami sanctions and sponsors to support their player base. That being said, guys, that's about it for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about modern Yu-Gi-Oh. You know, maybe whether you agree or disagree. You know, let's have a healthy discussion about it. We don't need to be flaming or angry, but thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more retro Yu-Gi-Oh content. Like I said, I do a lot of content on retro Yu-Gi-Oh and even Tengu Plant format, so I would appreciate the support in growing my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you guys have a great time dueling today.